Welcome back to another episode of 6 and 6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin in South America, where Chile's Coldelco has boosted copper outputs despite global trade tensions. Coldelco, Chile's state-owned copper producer, increases production for the first quarter of 2025 and remains optimistic about long-term global demand. From Reuters, Coldelco, Chile's state-owned copper producer, boosts the production in the first 3 months of 2025 and is still bullish about their long-term prospects for global demand from the U.S. and from China. Chairman Maximo Pancho said on Monday, "We, quote, expect the first quarter to show a slight increase compared to the same period last year," Pancho mentioned in an interview prior to the Cisco and CRU copper industry conferences taking place in Santiago, end quote. Moving to Africa, a Nigerian court has adjourned the tax evasion trial against Binance executives until April 30th. The trial against Binance and its executives has been postponed to allow the Federal Inland Revenue Service, or FIRS, to respond to Binance's motion regarding the service of the court documents. From Reuters, quote, "The Federal Inland Revenue Service is seeking $2 billion in back taxes and $79.5 billion in damages for alleged economic losses resulting from Binance's activities in the country of Nigeria," end quote. We next shift our focus to the Caribbean, where Haiti is facing a worsening humanitarian crisis. Haiti's humanitarian situation is deteriorating due to escalating violence from armed groups. The crisis has led to widespread displacement and insecurity, with aid groups struggling to provide assistance. From Reuters, quote, "Haiti's humanitarian crisis is worsening as armed groups intensify their attack on the populations and key state infrastructure, nearly paralyzing much of the country and exacerbating the dire human rights and humanitarian situation. Throughout 2024, criminal groups did unspeakable things to many different parts of the population, already overwhelmed by rising poverty, hunger, and a lack of access to essential services," end quote. Across the Pacific, South Korea's Hanwha Aerospace has trimmed its capital increase plan. Hanwha Aerospace, South Korea's largest defense firm, has reduced its planned capital increase from 3.6 trillion won to 2.3 trillion won. This adjustment follows a request from the Financial Supervisory Service to provide cleaner details on the use of funds. From Reuters, quote, "Hanwha Aerospace and its regulatory filling on Tuesday has revived its planned capital increase, scaling it back by approximately 1/3 to 2.3 trillion won, or $1.6 billion. The Financial Supervisory Service of South Korea instructed Hanwha Aerospace to amend its proposal, indicating that the firm must provide clear details on how the equity increase aligns with a larger strategy for corporate restructuring. In Australia, the conflict in Gaza is influencing the upcoming election. The ongoing conflict has been becoming more significant as an issue in Australia's upcoming election, with both major parties facing pressure to take a stance. This reflects the broader impact of the international conflict on domestic politics. From Reuters, quote, "The conflict in Gaza is threatening to reshape Australia's elections as both major parties face pressure to take a stance on the issue. The opposition has criticized the government for not doing enough to address the humanitarian crisis, while the ruling party argues that its approach is balanced and supports peace efforts," end quote. And finally, we go to Europe, where the EU Commission is proposing counter tariffs on some of the U.S. imports in response to America's tariffs. The move is part of an ongoing trade dispute between the EU and the United States. From Reuters, quote, "The implementation of these tariffs will commence on May 16th for certain items, while others will be introduced later in the year on December 1st, as indicated in the document. The list of affected goods is diverse, encompassing items such as eggs, dental floss, sausages, and poultry. Specifically, the counter tariffs on almonds and soybeans are scheduled to take effect on the 1st of December," end quote. And if you want to check out any of today's articles, you can find all the links in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also down there, you can find the podcast on Spotify, Pocket Cast, Podvine. All the links are there, so you can go download it and listen on your own time, when you're driving into work, things like that. If you want to check out these episodes, they come out every Tuesday and Thursday at the YouTube channel, as well as those links in the description. And also, you can come back on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and hear our national focused, our U.S. focused podcast that is running probably 10 to 15 minutes nowadays. And if you don't want to go to YouTube every single day, you don't want to have to go back and forth there, though we would love if you subscribe. You can go to the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post links directly to all the videos Monday through Friday. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe, don't die.